First of all, is what if someone has a lasting impairment or a lasting disability? And I know we might get into economic harm and stuff like that later on, but as far as something that someone's just going to have to live with for the rest of their life, what do we do there in order to prove that? Because obviously it's something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. So nearly every significant injury carries with it some degree of residual permanency. So even if it's a clean fracture of your arm, for instance, I broke a leg in high school. A day like today, it's raining outside. Like I'm a little stiff when I get up in my left leg. And that was considered an injury that healed properly and correctly. So every injury is going to have a little bit of permanency. Does that give rise to an actual impairment? Well, that's up to the doctors. Mm-hmm. So when an injury, when someone reached maximum medical improvement, they've gotten better as they're going to get. They did physical therapy. They allowed time for their body to heal. They did everything right. Perhaps they had the surgery that the doctor required. This is it. They're not going to get any better. If they heal somewhere less than 100%, then the doctors need to assign some sort of impairment rating. And there's medical guidelines for that. It's a science. It's not
certainly.
It's not just throwing numbers at the wall. So what happens is they'll say, well, this person is impaired, 18% to the leg, and that might give them a 10% whole body impairment. So now we have a percentage. Now we have a number. And we know that this injury has affected them to that degree and will affect them permanently, meaning the rest of their life. So then the question becomes, okay, how long is the rest of their life? There's a big difference between a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old, or a 70-year-old. Thankfully, there's statutory guidelines that allow us to sort of project out the timeline for somebody, and it doesn't have to be subjective to that person. It's just if the person was born on this date, if they're this old, then they have X number of years remaining. And that's all by statute. So we can go to the code, we know how old someone is, and we can say, okay, well, if they're 50 years old, then they might have, 17 years or 20 years, whatever the number is, worth of life remaining. And we can project out that pain, the impact on their life over the course of the next 20 years or whatever the number comes out to be.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, or for our viewers and listeners, a lot of times this is where an expert may come in.
Yeah.
Someone who can forecast, future medicals that they may have to have, future medical treatment, can forecast the actual impact, whether that be economic impact or, loss of enjoyment of life impact, just the effect on their daily life. That's when an expert can come in, I'm sure. Mm-hmm.